Mandalorians feature quite heavily in The Old Republic.
Thank you very much for joining this episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison. To my right, as always, it's the Mandalorian, Andy Olsen.
I am not the Mandalorian. I wish I was.
Every single week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us. We dive into some of cinema's best, but coming back here to talk it out. Andy, this week, we're not talking about the Mandalorian. We're going way back because we're talking about Rear Window,
which is 1954, Alfred Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm.
And our best friend, James Stewart, that we know from It's a Wonderful Life.
Our best friend. More importantly, have you ever seen The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance?
No.
Oh my God, I love James Stewart. I love James Stewart in general, but I love him in that.
Yeah.
So, if someone has never seen Rear View Window before, which I'm guessing a lot of people know the premise of Rear View Window, but just
Rear
in case.
Window.
Oh, do you know what? I do this. I think I did it at the end of last week's episode as well. I've always called
I keep calling it Review, and I was like, it's not called Review.
That's probably me. I'm
Yeah,
very sorry. I've done it for years.
Rear Window.
What is Rear Window all about?
Is a bloke called Jeff. He sat down and he's broke his leg, so he's in a wheelchair, and he's observing his neighbours, as you do. He's got his insurance nurse who's like a bit older. He's like kind of like, you should move in with your girlfriend. And he's got his girlfriend who's lovely and really kind of like absolutely adores him. And he thinks he sees one of his neighbours perform a bad act. That escalates, and he does more surveillance, and then eventually it culminates into an altercation between said neighbour and Jeff.
And if there's one thing that Mr. Hitchcock is known for, it's for the building of suspense and the slow rise in tension.
Okay. Until
eventually you hit a boiling point and everything spills over. And you didn't like it. I can see it in your face. Yeah. Oh God.
I know. I was. It's not that I don't like it, but I didn't buy into it.
Okay, go on. This is interesting. I didn't expect this. A plot twist, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't like that. Well, we'll start at the very end, but I didn't like that he came around to his house and attacked him. Because by this point, he could easily tell what was going to happen. It was all like put that way. It was like kind of put that way forward. He's obviously going to do something wrong. He's obviously going to attack him because he's scared. This has the issues I have with classic film that I did with Streetcar Named Desire. It's not that it's a bad film, but it's got a lot of that classic element about it. It's got that lots of like kind of. I felt you're saying there like the build up of tension. I found it hard to resonate with the main character Jeff because in the end he's built to be a protagonist where I didn't find him really as a protagonist. I found him as this guy that's not really asked. He's like kind of like surveilling on people. He's kind of like put my finger at him, and he's like looking at this girl who's a dancer, and he's like, I'm not really in love with my girlfriend, I don't really want to go there. So immediately I'm like, his views don't correspond to my own. They don't like kind of like go in the same alignment. So when I'm like, when he goes on, he's like, we should believe him. And he's talking to the detective, this guy's doing that. I'm thinking, I actually half wish that he's wrong, and it's like a character thing, and it's like he goes down this path, and this guy that we're supposed to like really, really relate with. What if he's wrong, and what if it becomes like an inner sort of thing?
So you wanted it to be him to be more fallible.
Yeah, but then at the end when it's this guy, and I think they kind of drew in this towards the end. There was that woman beneath it. It looked like she was going to commit suicide. I thought it might be her because it's her guy. And I was thinking, now that's a good twist. What if it's her? Obviously, back in those days, it's a woman. It's obviously not going to be her. It's going to be the guy that where's his wife gone. It could be her, or she could be involved somewhere.
Did you not? If you were looking for something where he was a bit more of a less of a sort of a perfect character, is that kind of the?
It's not that. It's just the fact that we're supposed to accept his views, and I didn't.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to accept his views. I think you're just supposed to observe his views in the same way that he's kind of like observing this little community that he's around.
Okay. But then you look at his nurse and you look at his partner, and they so easily accept his views. So therefore, as an audience, are we not supposed to easily accept his views much like they did? Like, to observe him is fair enough, but it's like you've got two characters there saying, "Oh yes, you're right," and it's like, well, I don't think he is. So why haven't that kind of opinion forced on me? I didn't. It's not that I didn't like it. I was a bit good at the end when he did come to the door and he had this like, what do you want? It was obvious that we were going to have this battle and the window being wide open. It was obvious it was going to go outside. And I was thinking, how like the scene I did love, fucking great, is where his partner went up to the ladders in the house. Yeah, I was on edge. I was very on edge. I was thinking, this is fucking awesome. Yeah. And then obviously, how cool would that be if she actually got out and it turns out it wasn't a guy. It was this poor little victim that these guys had been like going and wandering the house looking through the purse and stuff. It turns out there was a woman beneath. So I had this massive image in my head like that. And then when it happened that way, I was a bit let down. It's slow.
That's Hitchcock. And like what you're kind of talking about there, in that I don't think a lot of Hitchcock's work is surprising and shocking. You get a few moments of it, things like Psycho, especially at the time, there was moments of shock and surprise. I don't find a lot of his work to be that shocking and surprising. Sometimes you understand where it's going to go. What I do appreciate about a lot of the things he does is the way in which he implements it. It's like, for example, with Rear Window, he's really restrained in the way he operates his camera. Well, the fact that we as an audience don't get to leave that room either.
Well, it's a whole set, the whole thing is this one set.
Yeah.
Like, which I found fucking fascinating. But go on, carry on.
So, like, for example, when she does that scene you're talking about there, where she goes and climbs up the ladder and goes into the house, we feel as trapped as James Stewart because the camera is trapped, and instead we're on the long end of a lens.
Yeah.
We don't get to go over there. We don't get to quite hear what's going on properly and things like that.
I love that as well. Because you can't do this. He screams. He's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
He's almost like, he's going to see us in darkness. It's like, and he's got to cover himself. He's got to cover the woman.
And the way he creates pacing through all the different stories that are going on. Like, when you need a break from this story, well, we'll go and check on the woman who's having a love life issue.
Yeah.
Or like when we're done with that, maybe we'll go check on the guy who's struggling to write the song a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll check in with the newlyweds who are over here, sort of thing.
Yeah.
The way in which pacing is created through that, because he couldn't create pacing through cutting away to anything else or telling a secondary story.
I can understand that. I still personally found the main story a bit too slow, but I did enjoy. I loved it when you transitioned in between the different departments and what they were doing. Also, little subtle things with the camera work where he's looking at the people on the street, and they've got that lovely little perfectly aligned alleyway that you can see on the main street on the other side. That was fucking awesome. Really well done, that set design and stuff like that. I mean, the whole thing about the set design is absolutely phenomenal.
Speaking of set design, can we at least have a shout out for the dog basket? The couple that because it's so hot, they're living out on their balcony.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
And have fashioned this basket to have the dog go down because they can't be bothered taking it down.
The dog can go down and shit in the neighbour's garden. I love that. I absolutely love that. But yeah, that part I loved. And the camera work I did love as well. Like that slow pacing of it's like going to shots like that. But even towards the end scene, despite the fact I didn't like how it turned out, where the way he's flashing, then he sees his eyes come back, and it's like more and more like this. I did think it was a bit silly that the antagonist, I can't get his name, the antagonist guy, that he didn't just go like that. As soon as he saw Jeff go like this, the antagonist didn't go, he's going to do it.
I would completely agree that the end of this film gets a bit silly.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you. I would, given the choice, I'd get rid of that weird bit where he keeps flashing him with the bulbs.
Yeah.
And like, let me put another one in. Hang on. And the guy's walking forward like he's bloody Michael Myers.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not minor really issue for me. How did you feel then? Because I didn't expect this. How did you feel about the acting?
So this is it. I have a soft spot for James Stewart because of It's a Wonderful Life. I love that film. I love his voice is so warming. Like,
we're gonna watch The Man Who Shot Blue Valance.
Cool. Okay. I love him. Even Lisa, isn't it? Grace Kelly.
Grace Kelly.
I thought she was absolutely phenomenal.
So if we can stop on Grace Kelly for a second, because we got to the end of this and Natalie turned to me and went, "Bloody love Grace Kelly," because with this sort of like role, and actresses at the time could very easily become quite shrill, and especially the way her character's written. It's a very fine line between being likable and unlikable.
I liked her character more than his.
Yeah, and she rides that line perfectly.
Yeah, because she's the caring one. She is the protagonist for me in this.
She gets,
because she's daring, she's loving, she wants to please him. She just wants to be there for him, and he's the one that's a bit like, yeah, I can't be bothered. Despite me loving James Stewart.
Reminds me of you and your relationship.
Sound. So the other one we've got is Stella's his nurse, isn't it?
Yep, Stella's his nurse.
Thelma Ritter.
Also great, but
not as prominent.
Part.
Yeah, not as prominent. But when she's, I love the ending like this. She goes, it made me laugh actually. Something. Do you want to go and see it? It's like, I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
I laughed at that. But besides that, everything was fine. I wasn't too keen on the cop. His mate Tom. He just did the stereotypical kind of 50s.
Definitely
the
weakest performance, but doesn't have a lot to do.
It wasn't anything to do with the acting. I thought fine. My only moments I didn't like was when they were kissing. They were like really close, and she was kissing him. They were talking amongst that, and I was like, again, that's like kind of.
That's very at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And personally, I find nowadays, like when I look back in it, fair enough, it's at the time. I just find it unnecessary. They could have like.
It's got that romanticism about it, though. There is something interesting about in those physical moments, those romantically interesting, intense moments, that the camera is very, very tight, very close, very involved. And yet, while the rest of the film is obviously a commentary on voyeurism, and the thing that he is much more engaged in really is the voyeuristic nature of what's going on. The camera instead is much more lingering and longing, and like it's almost like he wants to be down and you want to be in amongst the story, but you don't get to be.
I just had problems with the writing of those particular parts inside the apartment.
Yeah.
That's my main issue. It's not that it was a bad film. It's like Streetcar Named Desire, when I went to watch that, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't particularly probably watch it again. Whereas other films like 12 Angry Men, fucking phenomenal, that we did last week. Like, I will hands down watch that again. I guess it's just a matter of taste. I do have issues where you have that kind of like, which is weird because we watch It's a Wonderful Life, and that's like an old film. It's like an old, like one of these classics and everything like that. But I think it's because that is like there's so much happening throughout that whole film. There's so many like scenes and scenarios and places, and
you get some respite
growth
from what's going on.
Yeah.
Whereas
this, because it's confined to one part. I mean, what you said last week is it's similar to The Conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason I like The Conversation more was probably because it was the same director who did The Godfather, so I was immediately on board. But the amount of sound records and stuff, and obviously that kind of like background unions, all that stuff. Maybe I was more interested in that. So maybe I saw through some of the slower parts because of my interest,
also like
personal interest.
with The Conversation, like Coppola was building on what had happened in Rear Window. Like he's taking kind of the ideas of Rear Window and fleshing those out a lot more.
It's more modern, a lot more modern. The Conversation, sorry, not Rear Window.
Because you hit that 70s mark of like new wave Hollywood coming in.
Yeah,
and cinema kind of catches up roughly to where it is today in terms of its sensibilities, and The Conversation has that quite a lot.
Interesting though, very interesting. It's been a while since we've had conflicting interests.
It's good conversation. I've enjoyed this. But anyway, there is Rear Window. You can let us know what you thought of Rear Window in the comments below, or you can hit us on Twitter, as always. Excuse me, I should not drink Coke during the show. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week, where we're actually taking a recommendation. And we're taking a recommendation from
Damien Beatty.
Damien Beatty. And Damien has recommended Seven Seal.
Who's the director?
You tell me.
Ingmar
Bergman.
I can't pronounce it.
Until then, get watching.